Just one more, coming back to the body, which is very important to me. Does your body feel transparent throughout the day, the week, the month?
Yes, if you ask me now, describe my experience of the body, and I were to just describe my experience of the body, I'm not in physical pain, and if you were to ask me, this is the first experience you've ever had, describe your experience of it, I would describe the faintest tingling somewhere in this region, which I would later conceptualize as my hands, similar tingling a little bit further down, and that's about it. Mm-hmm. I have no other experience of the body at the moment. It's mostly just empty knowing. Of course, if I was in pain, then there would be more intense sensations. But I don't have an experience, and I would say that I'm not suggesting that my experience of the body is something special. I would suggest that most, if not all of you, unless you're in intense pain, I would suggest that actually your experience is the same. For instance, are any of you now, unless you have a headache, are any of you now actually experiencing the back of your head? Go to the part of your experience called the back of your head. Is there something solid and dense there, or is it just open and empty? Is there a head there? Are any of you experiencing a head? It is, all there is a vibration of knowing that may have a certain intensity, and due to your memory, you say it is dense. It is solid. It is not. It's just a vibration of empty knowing. There's nothing dense there at all. You're superimposing a memory on your experience. Okay, so I grant there may be some tingling there, but for most of us, there's no experience of the head at all. What about your shoulders? Are any of you experiencing your shoulders at the moment? Unless you have a pain in your shoulder or your back, for instance. Can any of you experience your back? You see that if we stay with the experience of the body, it's unless we're in pain, it's mostly empty space with a few little tingling, amorphous vibration floating around. Unless there's a physical pain or a contraction of feeling. But even if there's a contraction of feeling, there'll just be a slight density in this area. Without reference to memory, you have no idea that intensity is jealousy or fear or anger. It's just a little vibration. Are any of you at the moment experiencing your eyes? Do any of you know that you have eyes? Or ears? There is the experience of hearing, but that wasn't the question. If I were to ask you, are you experiencing hearing now? You would all answer yes, that there is something in my experience that corresponds to the word hearing. But is there anything in your experience now that corresponds to the word ears? Unless you have an earache. No, when you go to the place in your experience that you used to call ears, is it not mostly just emptiness? Try to find your head now. What is your actual experience of your head? Is it not just the space in which your experience is appearing? You sense, period. You're not sensing something, you're just sensing. I sense my jaws is a label that can only be supplied if you refer to the past. All you can say is, I sense, but you have no idea what you are sensing. In fact, you have no idea even that you are a self that is sensing. All you can say is, there is sensing. The newborn infant, and the only reason I go back to a newborn infant is that the newborn infant cannot refer to the past. The newborn infant is experiencing sensing. It is experiencing something, but it has no idea what it is experiencing, and it has no idea that it is a self that is experiencing it. There is just sensing, just hearing, just seeing. And if the newborn infant were to touch the stuff out of which that seeing, hearing or sensing was made, without any past knowledge or idea of it, and it were able to say what it is, it would say all that's there is experiencing or knowing. It would have no knowledge of having a jaw or a head.
I work for a software company, been working there for 20 plus years. A few months ago, I was told my performance is not good and they moved me. I used to manage a group of about 20 people and now I manage about 5 people. I felt really bad because not so much that they changed my role or anything else, more because I was treated like an object, I felt. It hurt a lot, it hurt my ego, and it's been a few months, it's fine. What I find now is that I go to work, I enjoy my work. For the most part, I love my team. You know, it's a good workplace. I still quite like it. Before entering the building, when I come into the workplace, there's a contraction. There's some element of shame, or I don't know if it's fear or rejection, or this place didn't treat me right. There's something still left.
First of all, just a comment on something you said earlier about that your ego was hurt by this behavior. Yes, there may be some egoic feeling that you've not been respected, but that also it would be quite reasonable to feel outraged at being treated in this way. As you say, to be treated like an object, to be treated like a pawn, especially after you've been with the company for 20 years. That is not an ignorant response. It is a reasonable response. That is the action that led to this situation was not, as you say, it's a very corporate kind of decision. It's not a decision that, at least on the face of it, from what I've heard, it comes from love and understanding. So I say that so that you don't reprimand yourself for responding an egoic response.
Sure. No, thank you.
So now when you approach your workplace, you feel this fear or contraction. Is that on account of an actual situation? Is there some hostility towards you?
No,
do you think
no.
it's something you bring to the situation?
Yeah.
It's a residue of the feeling of
Exactly.
being diminished.
Yes.
You have to trace your way back in your own experience to your being prior to this hurt or upset, and as you approach your workplace, feel your essential being, that it's not touched by this hurt, and project that onto your workplace. You could literally, physically feel that you paint your workplace with this openness. Infuse your workplace with this recognition of your own empty, open being, and realize that they are essentially empty and open. Yes, this emptiness by openness may be clouded by thoughts and feelings, but try to feel beyond that, try to feel through that. That even the person who treated you in this unkind way, behind her thoughts and feelings, she is ultimately the same innocent being that you are. Try to feel it, try to not just work it out rationally.
Right. I may not have fully forgiven, or there is hurt obviously somewhere inside, and this feeling of injustice, something I'm carrying in me, I think.
Well, it may be unjust. Don't feel that you have to reason with yourself don't feel that you have to persuade yourself that it is just. It may be unjust, but still you want to be free of the feeling of injustice. It's not that you want to be, you essentially are free of that. You have to find that place in yourself.
I think there's a desire to believe the world is just or right. It's so, we want the relative world to be fair, but it's all, I understand its points of view. I mean, I'm sure if you ask others, they may say it was really fair. So
no, but it's more than just a desire for the world to be just. It's that desire comes from an intuition that ultimately, behind all the injustice and equality that we see in the world, there is this just being. So our desire for justice comes from the intuition of justice, just as our desire for happiness is a pull from happiness. So that is why the desire for justice in everybody is so strong. It's not a flippant, superficial. We all feel a sense of what is right, and we feel passionately that we want what is right. We want it in the same way that we want happiness. Happiness is not a superficial, fleeting desire. We passionately want happiness. That desire is a pull from happiness. And the desire for justice is an intuition of that justice and equality are part of the fabric of reality. There is in you that tendency to feel victimized. And as long as that feeling remains in you, you will tend to find that feeling reflected in your circumstances and relationships. So whatever happens to you from the outside, your work is to liberate yourself from the feeling of being a victim. You are not a victim of anyone or anything. You have to find your freedom and your autonomy in spite of your circumstances, and not allow your circumstances to weigh down on you and to victimize you, to make you feel that you are diminished or not free.
I mean, I believe these teachings so much in my heart. I know they're true. I know they're right.
Yes, but you're right. You don't believe them. You know them. You know it's that when we hear something that is true, we know that it is true. There is that unmistakable yes in us. I know that this is true. Even though I may not be able to quite find it for myself, I know that it is being said is true. So it's not a belief in these teachings, it's the knowledge.
Yes.
It's that the teachings resonate with something that you know in yourself, but you lose touch with, you lose sight of it. Don't allow other people to diminish your being. Don't allow anybody else to dictate to you by their words or their behavior that you are anything less than this perfectly whole, dignified, peaceful, fulfilled being. Don't give other people that power over you. Nobody has that power over you unless you give them permission to have it, in which case they will seem to have it. So first of all, find this freedom and autonomy and dignity in yourself, and then stand up straight. Make sure that you feel that in your body, that you don't feel shrunk. But so feel that this dignity and freedom and autonomy, and go to work like that. It doesn't matter whether you're cleaning the bathrooms or making tea for people. It doesn't matter.
Right.
If you are doing that from this position, from this understanding of dignity and autonomy and freedom, then you are more dignified and more free than your bosses, if they are not acting from this same place. But you have all the tools you need. You're a beautiful being. You're in touch with yourself. Just have confidence in that.
Right.
Don't believe your conditioning. Don't let other people allow you to feel that you are anything other than this free, autonomous, dignified, beautiful being. Whether you're cleaning the bathrooms or making tea or managing two people.
I have lost my daughter to alcohol and addiction, and she's still alive, but not alive, you know. And it's very, very painful. And so the thing I have looked at is letting go of feeling guilty or now responsible, as all mothers probably do in these cases. But I know there is still some sadness that wants to come and wants to be some way freed or born or seen or whatever.
Bring it out of hiding.
Out of shame.
Out of shame,
Yes.
out of guilt, out of all this time that you've kept this sorrow and grief at bay. To take the lid off, to do the opposite, invite it, befriend it, invite it to come close. It's only a danger when it is at a distance from you.
I remember trying to look at this, and what happens is the story gets in the way, but if I leave the story alone and just deal with this...
Don't look at it. You can only look at something that is at a distance from yourself. It's got to be closer than looking at it. Don't look at your feelings, but bring them closer than that. Looking at them keeps them at bay.
I see.
Keeps them at bay. This is my sorrow. This is my sadness. In fact, it's only possible to label a feeling, sorrow or grief or shame, if it is at a distance from ourselves. The closer it comes to ourselves, the less easy it is to label it. And when it is one with ourselves, then there is just a certain intensity to the experience, but we don't know what the experience is. You will not even know that the feeling is sorrow, let alone unpleasant. There will just be this raw intensity of experience from which there is no impulse to separate yourself or get rid of it. We normally think that the way to deal with feelings is to push them further away. But we know that doesn't work. It's the opposite.
Yeah.
The way to deal with a feeling is to bring it so close. You know the story of the frog prince. The princess who is playing in the royal garden with her golden ball, and she throws it, but it lands by mistake in the royal pond, and she can't get it, and she's terribly upset. There just happens to be a frog in the pond at that time who notices how upset the princess is. So the frog asks the princess why she's so upset. She said, I've lost my beautiful golden ball in the pond. And he said, okay, I'll retrieve it for you on one condition, and that is that you let me sleep on your pillow. And she's so keen to get the ball back. She says, yes, sure, of course, anything. So the frog retrieves the ball, gives her ball. She forgets about the frog immediately. She runs back to the palace, and she's having dinner with the king. And there's a knock on the door. It's the frog.
Yes.
So the frog hops up onto the table and reminds the princess of her promise. So the princess is very embarrassed and explains to the king, so that the frog is allowed to stay for dinner. And then the princess says, okay, now go, out you go. And the frog says, no, you promised to let me sleep on your pillow. So reluctantly the princess lets the frog sleep on her pillow. So the frog is on her pillow and princess is sleeping, and then the princess hears this noise, and the frog says to her, will you give me a hug, will you? So the princess So the princess overcomes her antipathy to the frog and brings the frog close, hugs him and gives him a kiss, and then falls asleep. When she wakes up in the morning, there's this beautiful, handsome prince in bed next to her. So you have to kiss the toad. You have to kiss that which is most repulsive to you, and then it turns into that for which you have always longed. So you kiss your sorrow, bring it closer than close, and at its very heart you will find the peace that you previously sought by avoiding it. This bringing close of the feeling seems to be something that we do. In fact, it's not. What we do is pushing experience away. So it is actually what seems to be a doing, a bringing the feeling close, is in fact the cessation of an old habit of rejecting the feeling. Yeah. The feeling is already close, in fact. All experience is utterly intimately one with awareness. So we don't have to make that happen. But what we have been doing all our lives is pushing the feeling away. But we don't realize it. We're so habituated to pushing the feeling away that we think that the distancing ourselves from our feelings is the natural state, and that to bring them close is something we have to do. No, it's the opposite. That this utter intimacy of awareness with experience, so intimate that awareness cannot separate itself from its experience and know what it is, let alone know whether it is unpleasant or not. That is the natural condition. And it is this pushing away that is something that we, as apparently separate selves, do. So it's not really a doing. It's you can't make it happen. You're right. It's really a surrendering or letting go of the resistance to experience, and then experience will. Everything seeks the light. Have you ever travelled in southern Europe and watched how the sunflowers just trace the light across the sky?
Yes.
It's the same thing. Everything is seeking light. So these feelings are, if left alone, that is, if we don't resist them, they will naturally come back. Because everything seeks liberation in the light of awareness. So these feelings are longing to return to their source. So all you need to do is just cease resisting them. You don't have to work at bringing them. They will just come back. Soon as the sun is over the well, the sun doesn't work hard at waking up. They just wake up and they bubble up to the surface. Go back to the experience you described watching the sunset. You described the beauty of the sunset. It wasn't really the beauty of the sunset because you've seen lots of sunsets before and you're not always struck by its beauty. There was something about that experience that struck you. It was your own presence, the presence of awareness that was bathing your perceptions in its light. That is the experience of beauty. The beauty was coming from yourself. It wasn't coming from the sunset. It was your own presence, the presence of awareness, which was bathing your perceptions in itself. So that's the position to take with a sunset, with a feeling of terror, with the fear of losing your mind. Just allow the experience to come. Just welcome it into this loving, open space, and just let it be there. Just let it be bathed in the peace of your true nature, without having to change it at all. It doesn't have to be managed or got rid of. So you are not only exposing all these old feelings that have kept you feeling, I am this solid, dense entity living here. First of all, they're all exposed, but then they're gradually dissolved. So the body, we are feeling the body in a way that is consistent with our understanding that the reality of the body is pure consciousness. We understand that. We all understand that now, or we're very close to understanding it. But we don't just want to understand it. We want to feel it. We want to live our lives in a way that is consistent with this new understanding. We don't just want to think about non-duality when we're alone in the privacy of our home. We want to feel it and to live it in the world and to share it. Don't forget, what we're doing is countering decades of conditioning. So this, don't expect that this knotted feeling of me in the body, don't expect it just to evaporate one morning. It takes time. It takes some time, and we do this over and over again. And each time we do it, the body may go back to the old feeling of being solid and dense, but it doesn't go all the way back. It only goes 90% of the way back, and then the next time it only goes 90%. And in time, over the months and years, if we just do this for a while, the body, it just becomes more transparent. We don't feel that there's a whole well of old hurts living in the chest, dictating the way we think and feel and act, and we feel that the body is washed clean of the tyranny of the separate self. And then your body becomes open and sensitive, and if you feel in touch with the environment, you don't feel defended.